Welcome to the Explainer. So let's talk about AI. We trust these tools for research, right? But what happens when they start learning from, well, the ghosts of failed science? All right, so let's just jump right in. We all do it, right? We use these AI tools to get a quick handle on some really complex research. But have you ever stopped to think, what if those AI assistants are quietly feeding us junk? I'm talking about information from studies that aren't just wrong, but have been totally discredited, debunked, and officially yanked from the record. Okay, first things first, let's be super clear about what we're talking about here. A retracted paper isn't just a study with a typo, you know? It's a study that has been formally kicked to the curb because of huge problems. I mean, we're talking bad data, broken methods, sometimes even straight-up fraud. This is why we call them zombie science. They're supposed to be dead and buried, but as you're about to see, they have this really nasty habit of just shambling right back to life, especially in our search results. So the tech that's kind of at the heart of all this is called Retrieval Augmented Generation. Let's just call it RAG. It's pretty simple, actually. It's a two-step dance. First, the AI retrieves a whole bunch of articles it thinks are relevant to your question. Then it generates a nice, neat little summary from all that stuff. But here's the catch, and it's a big one that researcher Aaron Tay really dug into. The quality of that summary is completely dependent on what the AI digs up. And if it happens to retrieve a zombie paper, well, you can guess what happens next. You get a zombie answer. So this is exactly what Tay did. He decided to put these AIs to the test. And he started with a real doozy. A super famous, really controversial paper from 2020 about female mentorship that was, you guessed it, later retracted. This thing made huge waves, so you'd think, the AIs would be all over it. Let's see how they did. And wow, the results were, well, they were all over the map. There was a massive difference in how these tools performed. One of them, Elicit.com, just absolutely crushed it. I mean, it didn't just find the paper, it found the whole story around the paper, citing the critiques and pointing out plain as day that it was retracted. But then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you had a tool called Undermine.ai, and it just presented the zombie paper's findings as fact. No warming, no red flags, nothing. Then you had a bunch of other tools that kind of fell in the middle. Scopus AI and Web of Science, for example, they played it super safe. They basically just filtered the paper out, pretending it didn't even exist. Which, okay, it's safe, but you also lose all that important context about why it was so controversial. And then there was Primo, which, this one's weird. It sent a really dangerously mixed signal. It flagged the sources retracted down in the tiny reference list, but the actual summary it wrote for you, it used the bad science without any warning at all. So if you're just skimming that answer, you'd be totally misled. Okay, so that first test was for a big, famous retraction. Easy mode, right? But what about a paper that got retracted quietly, without all the drama and public debate? This, right here, is where the whole investigation takes a really fascinating turn. Tay picked another paper, also from 2020, that was pulled because of some analytical mistakes. But it didn't really make a splash in the news. And get this, the results were completely flipped on their head. It was bizarre. AI2's Scholar QA, which was one of the heroes of the first test, it totally failed this time around, just summarizing the quiet retraction like it was solid gold. And Undermined, remember the tool that bombed the first test? It passed. It actually noted the retraction correctly. The performance just did a complete 180. So what on earth is going on? Well, it turns out this had nothing to do with some kind of super sophisticated AI brain. No, the real reason for the flip was much simpler. It was all about metadata. The only reason Undermined passed the second test was because in its database, someone had literally added the word retracted to the paper's title. The AI wasn't being smart. It was just reading a label, a big, obvious label. And when that label wasn't there, like in the first test, it fell flat on its face. Okay, so that realization leads us to an even deeper, more fundamental problem. What happens when we take the AI's own database out of the equation? What happens when we give it the source material directly, like when we upload a PDF? Now, you'd think this would be a total no-brainer, right? I mean, if you hand an AI a document that has the word retracted stamped in giant letters across every single page, it's going to see that, isn't it? That's a pretty hard visual clue to miss. Nope, wrong. Almost across the board, the AI's just ignored it. We're talking everything from big names like ChatGPT and Gemini to the specialized research tools like Scite and Elicit. When you upload a PDF of a retracted paper, even one with a giant retracted watermark all over it, the AI just reads the text and summarizes it like it's perfectly fine. This is a massive systemic blind spot. All right, so it's pretty clear the system is flawed. I mean, seriously flawed. But here's the good news. This research doesn't just, point a finger at the problems. It actually lays out a really clear path forward with solutions that vendors could start building literally right now. To fix this whole mess, Tay proposes 4 really common sense steps for the people making these tools. Step 1, sync up with the official retraction databases. They're free, they're public, it's not hard. Step 2, by default, just filter these zombie papers out, just like Scopus AI does. Easy. Step 3, for the experts who actually need to study these bad papers, give them a special red flag mode that screams warning all over the content and the citation. And finally, step 4, and this is a big one. When a user uploads a PDF, the AI should just automatically grab its unique ID, the DOI, and check it against those retraction databases. Simple. And really, that's where this leaves us. As Aaron Tay puts it so well, if we don't get this fixed, we risk letting discredited science creep silently back into the scholarly record. And until the AI companies build in these basic safeguards, the last line of defense against all this zombie science, well, it isn't some fancy algorithm. It's you. It's me. It's us. So the real question becomes, are we ready to be that skeptical of the answers our AI assistants give us?